Hello, everyone. We're just going to give it about 30 seconds to let people trickle in. I know it takes some time to get in from the waiting room into the webinar, but you are at the right place to talk a little bit about BuildOps and a spec point. So we were just talking about how, if anyone's here from the Northeast, how
How hot it is.
yeah, as Drew wipes his brow. I
And
just
I'm
came
in the
from,
air conditioning. It's
yeah.
still it's so humid. It's crazy.
One of the reasons I'm from Boston and New York. One of the reasons I quite literally left New England was because of the humidity. I just, my body cannot, especially like everyone, like I was at an age at that time, 20s and 30s, when everyone was getting married. And I'm like, they're getting married in churches and I have to wear a shirt. Forget it. Once I start flop sweating, it is over. Like I am now like I'm an embarrassment to your wedding party. Like I cannot be part of this ceremony any longer.
I agree. RC, how rude of your friends to get married and not consider
Yes.
you in that. Like, unbelievable,
Uh,
just unbelievable.
All right. So we are good to go. So let's kick it off. Awesome. I appreciate everyone's time and for joining. We'll make sure we'll keep this tight because we respect your time and everything like that. Uh, my name is RC and I head up the content and webinar programming here at BuildOps. And if you're unfamiliar with BuildOps is an all-in-one solution for commercial contractors doing project service, lead management, everything. I mean, lead generation, all that stuff, everything you can think of. Visit buildops.com to learn a little bit more about that. But today we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about the fire protection world and kind of like a long-standing pain that you all experience in this world, which is how hard it is to connect inspection, service, quoting, operations, all in kind of one easy workflow. So that's why we're here today. So you're going to talk directly to some folks who actually been in the field, as well as the folks who are building the kind of solution and make your life a little bit easier. And what we'll do is we're going to walk through some of the real problems you all experience. We're going to showcase a connected workflow that solves these challenges for you. And we're going to wrap up with some Q&A. You should see probably at the bottom of your screen or somewhere a Q&A icon. That's what you can use to ask any questions, have any comments. When possible, we'll pepper those Q&As within the conversation live. However, we will definitely dedicate some time at the end to answer as many questions as we can. And if we can't answer any questions during the live session, we'll follow up with you one-on-one as well. Before we kick it all off, let's do some introductions. When I do some introductions, you'll see a poll question pop up. If you could just interact with that and answer that, that'll help us understand how to tailor the conversation for the rest of the program. Let's kick it off with first Nate.
Hey, everybody. Nate Talkerman. First, super humbled to be here in the presence of greatness with Drew. It's rare that you get a chance to really connect with some of these real innovators and industry leaders. So just thank you, Drew, for letting us tag along here. My background is in construction. I worked at a company called Rosen and Electric for 12 years out of the Bay Area. We did large capital projects, airports, hospitals, and such. About 2019, went over to Contech, joined Procore, built the app marketplace and partnerships there, integrating and connecting solutions like ours. And then moved over to a procurement solution called StructShare, recently acquired by Trimble. That was pretty fun. And joined BuildOps. Recently, and I run partnerships and integrations connecting to solutions like InspectPoint. So this partnership has been super impactful and fun to build, and I just enjoy the team. So happy to be here. Thanks everyone for having me.
So nice pipes in the background there, Nate.
Yeah.
Drew.
Oh, thanks for having me today. This partnership is been long coming, and I'm really excited to obviously fully launch it out there today and kind of show the market a little bit more about what we have to offer together. But myself, co-founder of InspectPoint, chief strategy officer, currently also hosted the Fire Protection podcast.
Yes.
So
Yep.
a
Check it
little
out.
reference, hopefully get some subscribers out there on the podcast. But I've been in fire protection since 2003, so 22 years now. It's kind of wild. Started with a couple Fortune 500 manufacturers, learned the products really well, learned the contractor base as well. So kind of put my head together with other co-founders who were big into software about 10, 11 years ago. And there was always a pain point, right, within the fire protection community. There's a variety of pain points, both on the install and project management side, but where we found it is the inspection side. It's heavily tied to compliance and all that, and that's where InspectPoint really does well. So
Awesome.
that's who I
Thanks,
am.
Drew. Thank you. Chelsea.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, depending on where you're coming in. Chelsea Martin here with BuildOps. My title is Solutions Engineer. All that means to those of you joining is that for the past decade, I've been helping contractors such as yourself, both on the construction side and field service management, try and find the best solution with a software platform out there. Worked with some of the older legacy systems in my past career, so very excited to be here at BuildOps with a operational system looking to actually partner with the companies such as InspectPoint to make our industry's workflows just that much smoother. So excited to show you the integration that we've built both on the office and then out in the field for your techs as well today.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to be talking a little bit about grounding the problem, just to kind of set it up to understand a little bit more about what the challenges that this new workflow solves. But before we do that, I just kind of want to surface back to the poll that we posted here. So the question was, how do you currently manage inspections and compliance? It's heartening. Is that? Yeah, because I always say disheartening, but it's heartening. This must be a word, right? It's heartening. If not, you understand what I mean. To see that no one actually responded with pen and paper. So people are adapting other solutions other than this thing. So that's great to see. I don't know if that's surprising for anyone else, but I like to see that mentality is already ingrained within the culture of the companies to begin with. It is not surprising though that there's like a pretty disparate view of like between Excel, SM software only, PM software only, multiple disconnected tools. There's a variety there. So that kind of lends into this next step, basically. Like, what are the challenges that the industry faces? So Drew, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about
Sure.
about this. You've been in this field, like you mentioned, 20 some odd years or so. Not to date you. Let us know a little bit more about how have these inspection services been managed before
Sure.
this wonderful integration?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it like dates back to the code of the NFPA codes, which mainly we're handling in the US and what we're talking about here today. But even 10 years ago, I think there was a stat out there through some of our partners that it was over 50%. This is 10 years ago, right? Over 50% were still on antiquated methods. Now that's pen, paper, Excel, and PDF goes in there as well. It's kind of just it's a static form or whatever. Now it over, 5 years ago, pen and paper was kind of going away and it was moving more toward that form aspect, right? And I still feel that forms they're out there. It's a quick I call it a band-aid solution because uh essentially it's a glorified PDF where you're pulling forms. I don't know where you're even pulling them from, right? Maybe your FSM or whatever, but it might not be who's managing that, who's making that relevant to fire protection. Also, it's kind of static. So where does that information flow after the form, right? If it's not a dynamic form, it kind of stays static and somebody still has to manage that. And even with forms, right, you're not managing the assets and the systems and the compliance of it. It's a form, right? And it works for a lot of trades. It works for HVAC, electrical, maybe in plumbing and in other industries, maybe in pest control, stuff like that. But fire protection's so life safety centric and the codes are changing every 3 years. If you're in different states or different jurisdictions, how do you manage that? And then there's this other complexity now that the fire marshals and insurance providers are essentially wanting all that inspection data back up at the fire marshal for them to make decisions on where their team goes. So that's Brycer's compliance engine, Live Safe, iRoll, First Do is another one that's coming out. So how do you get that data flow back up? They're adding more complexities to compliance every day. So back to your question, pen and paper's gone away, but even we're still in this kind of form phase. But hey, where are we going next? And we're InspectPoint's usually at the forefront of that. So
I feel like there's this like God, maybe a decade and a half of like, oh, it's Adobe, not built for us form. And I think, finding creative ways to make all of that work, it really came down to accessibility and visibility. So like, how do you get this to the field? oh, it's email. There's no internet on site. So it's not accessible, even though it's a great tool when you get back to your desk. But now you're an armchair quarterback field person that has to take that analog field solution and then spend time doing it in the trailer or whatever. So it's a good solution that isn't tailored for construction because the mountaintop or the basement of the building or something like that doesn't really lend itself to you. So there were solutions not built for us, but they were again problems with accessibility and visibility from the office of like, hey, you did it, but I got to wait for it to sync. And so I think the real revolution was around cellular and mobile, like handheld device and that kind of stuff. And so now that the underpinning technology is there, that the problem statement of like, I can't get it to the people, and when they do use it, they can't get it to me, seems table stakes, but like a big hurdle that we had to get over. And so now that we have that, like you can basically do a million things like inspect points, purpose built for you, code compliant, updated, the changes push out. And so when I think of the most frustrating thing, it's just like I can't even use like the bare bones technology medium to transfer this tribal knowledge or this great process I've built or something to connect the office to the field, or more importantly, the field back to the office, right? That, I always used to say the office owes tools, information, material to the field. And the new is that the field can actually provide information back to the office, right? And inspections and field forms and stuff like that are a prime example of that feedback loop.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And even in forms, right? There's so many different frequencies in fire and safety. Like how do you determine that, right? So if your system and asset driven, you know what's in the building and you know what frequency it is for that inspection, it should kick out and it should essentially put it in front of that technician right away. So they're not required to have to do that. And there's some quality and potential errors with that if they're having to pick the specific form, the specific frequency, or the specific system. So we do
I
a
would
lot of
go
that for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would go one level up and say, hey, look, the communication async between your own business and what you need to do is great for performance. But when you can share that and get on alignment with the actual owner, and they can cue in what those intervals are, and then maybe it's preliminary to the deliverable. You could be a month ahead, and get on a cycle. Like imagine paying your bills a month early. And so to be able to say like, hey, I'm showing the ability to perform and how I'm providing a greater service because of the tools I'm using, I think it transcends just your own internal company process. I think we're
Yep.
tying multiple entities together with the vendor who's providing this stuff from a deficiency standpoint or whatever. So I think it's important to focus on your own business and what you do, but not to leave the benefit as just isolated to those within your four walls.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super excited about this because I came from the fire protection side that focused on the install and project management. And that's such a big part of fire and security and fire safety, where, the contractors they do a lot of the recurring revenue and field service and inspection, testing, and maintenance, but they're heavy on the install side too,
Yeah.
and I know BuildOps, you guys are really strong there, where, it starts at the design, flows down to the project management, and there's a lot more technicians and fitters and install um, uh, field workers that are required there, and just the management of those projects. And you have all those systems and assets at that project level. Imagine flowing that down to grab that recurring revenue on that inspection contract and on that service. So kind of wraps it all in one.
Yeah. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to do the walkthrough and everything like that. But I did want to mention one more thing as well. Like Nate, you talked about technology, and like now that we have the technology to do X, Y, and Z, is that the only reason why it's taking? It is June 2025. Why is it taken to June 2025 to make this happen? Like, what has been the delay since the pain points have been there for so long to make this workflow exist?
Before I answer that, I see some hands raised. I want to make sure you guys and gals all know that the Q&A section, land that question there so we can map it to something we're talking about, see if it's relevant now, but make sure we record it. We're not going to call on people one by one, just put it in the Q&A section at the bottom if you don't mind. Um, it's a good question, RC. The why not is really, there's no silver bullet. Everyone has their own particular story. There's, COVID highlighted the aging workforce that didn't want to use it, but then it showed us on the other side of that there's a younger workforce emerging that is used to these technologies. And so I think it comes down to just change management. Just, do I trust it? There are legacy solutions that came out and didn't nail it for us or didn't have stay power. And so whether it was an adoption story or they just didn't solution right, we have some PTSD around that doesn't work for me or it doesn't feel right to use. There was a lot of like really redundant manual entry. I think of like a prologue, for example, which is like great reporting, but it took so much input and energy to be able to put the information in that it was almost like, I don't want to do it. It's not worth the output. And so I think there's a lot of reasons, but I tend not to focus on the why not. I think what's different now that counters the why not is the ease of development. I mean, the half-lives of, how fast we can solution for contractors, the younger workforces, the propensity to adopt, the benefit acknowledged, the VC money coming in to pop up the solutions. I think there's a lot more tailwinds for contact and construction companies to get benefit than there were the headwinds that prevented it from happening sooner.
Got it. By the way, folks, as we transition to the Chelsea show, if you will, just launching one more poll, which actually might help us. So while Chelsea does a walkthrough, also Nate and Drew are going to kind of be a little bit of a narrator, if you will, and help Chelsea out. But the answer to this poll question might help them understand where they might focus more of their attention while she's doing a little bit of a walkthrough. So if you don't mind spending a moment to just kind of answer that poll question, we'll give you a moment on that. And Chelsea, you feeling good? You are ready to kick this off, right?
Sure. Yep.
All right, so we've got a lot of engagement in the Q&As as well. So people are pretty excited about this. They love the conversation. So obviously this is something worthwhile. So we want to make sure that we walk through this. Again, as you post your Q&A questions, at this point, probably we'll start saving them toward the end. But Chelsea, hopefully you can share your screen pretty easily, and then we are good to go.
All right. So to kick things off, I wanted to highlight the fact that once we have the integration set up within BuildOps, it's going to seamlessly flow for both groups on the office side and out in the field as well. So this particular Sprouts customer that I have set up in the system is also set up on the inspect point side. So when jobs are created, we see the inspection, we see, it's a job created over here, but it's tied to that inspection 69. We see that status coming over from inspect point as well, waiting for review. This was a demo I had earlier this morning. And then I can very easily pop into inspect point straight from here. So once we have this set up, one of the questions was, will the assets from the buildings pull in? Yep, we're going to set all that up when we map it. So it's very easy when you come into BuildOps and create a new job now. All I have to do is mark that it's an inspection. Once I do that, it pops up my additional fill in. I can now select my building and then any assets that would be tracking in both the inspect point and BuildOps side. We're going to go ahead and do a wet sprinkler and then an alarm system to show you both of those inspections being pulled in. And then we can come in here and set our frequency as well. Now, those of you that are familiar with BuildOps, there's some required information that you get to pick and choose when you set up your environment. So I'm going to go through and just make sure that we've got all that filled out and then get this up on the dispatch board.
Hey, one thing to point out, inspect point, the way we handle our buildings and assets and everything under it, we have a building set up and obviously it's linked, Sprouts is linked to Sprouts, but all those systems are specific to whatever NFPA code that we're doing, right? If it's sprinkler, it's NFPA 25, which he's got a wet system there. Alarm system is NFPA 72. So it's tabular at the system level. And that's important, obviously, for code, but also for compliance reasons. And a lot of these cities and towns have compliance engine and some of these other third-party reporting back up to the fire marshals. We align very well with those, and it has to be system in order for that integration to go back up to the HJ.
And for those not familiar with the Inspect Point platform, like it's not just, it's templated. You're not building these forms that are NFP compliant. They have already done that work and codified the requirement in form fashion so that when you say I'm working on this system, the questions, the visual inspections, everything that you need to do is already pre-built to ensure compliance. And so that's the real benefit, right? Is that if I just do what, when I tag the system, this list the questions or things I need to do from an inspection would come up, and by doing what's on the form, what's on the screen, automatically ensures compliance if it's just a yes.
Yep. And wherever you're at in North America, we're handling all that compliance, whether it's NFPA, whether it's local jurisdictions like the state of California, like the city of Chicago, or even like healthcare. Healthcare has its own reporting thing, Joint Commission, DMV. So that is super complicated, which we handle all those niche cases.
Just before I save this, I wanted to just highlight this create multiple visits. Before, Drew mentioned how BuildOps can handle those installs. So if this was something that need to have multiple visits scheduled, all I would need to do is toggle that. But we're gonna go ahead and save this, and now we've got that job created in BuildOps, and it's also gonna create that inspection as well. Now we see that inspection 70 right up here at the top. We see that scheduled status. This is also feeding over into Inspect Point. This is now going to land on our dispatch board, so we can very easily see it here as well. Again, I see that inspection 70. Click our little pop-out window, and that's going to put you right into Inspect Point. So no matter if you're on the office side, we've built it in so it's super easy to toggle back and forth between the two, but that data is also flowing. So now we've got that inspection created, and now we'll hop into the app and take a look at what your technicians are going to be able to do through BuildOps, and then the integration we have with the app.
The magic of live television.
Yes.
While you're pulling that up, one of the questions was, sorry, I'm just going to answer it since we got a bunch of them coming in.
Perfect.
John mentioned alignment with Compliance Engine. Compliance Engine is more system-based on the specific buildings, but there is an automatic integration where the reports and deficiencies, because those deficiencies have to be aligned out in Compliance Engine as well, automatic integration up to them without actually jumping into Compliance Engine at all.
And then when will the integration start was another question. So not quite sure exactly, like it's available today. If you have both systems and you just want to connect them, just call your CS rep and we'll walk you through how to connect those. We can provide you some documentation, but it's ready and live today. If it's when does it start, like through the administration, everything, when you spin up your projects, they automatically sync. When you submit your forms, they automatically sync back. So just, there's no like import export or having to hit a button to make sure they sync. It happens live through the workflows. So yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go.
This is live. This is right in our demo environment. And so as they said, I now see that on my app, I see the same job 2004, that inspection 70, and there's that same pop-up window that we saw in the office. So again, those of you that are familiar with BuildOps, I would go through my, what we call that gated workflow. So I'm gonna click travel. I'm gonna start driving to this job. I have my address down there that's supported through Apple or Android to be able to get there. I can see any information related, and then I can start the work for this particular ticket. Clicking that, I'll click work. And now to get into the inspection, it's just by clicking that pop-out window. It now pulls me into Inspect Point. if you could see me right now, my hands are up. I did not click into that app. It automatically brings me in, pulls in all of the pertinent information. We see that inspection reference number as 2004, referencing back to BuildOps and that ticket number. I can see the systems that were tagged, again, just by those types at the beginning when we created. I can see past inspection reports if I was not that inspector last there. Just like BuildOps, you can see the past jobs. And now I can go through and actually complete my inspection by using the magnifying glass up there at the top. And now we're going to go through and it prompts me the particular forms and all of the inspections that I need to go through. This is something that just by selecting those assets, by creating that ticket and having the integration ready to go, I can now click in here. I see all of the questions that would be related. I can mark any deficiencies if there were any. We see a nice red come through marking that deficiency, and we'll see how this all feeds back into BuildOps and InspectPoint as well to follow up on.
Hey, quick, Chelsea.
Sure.
If you go up a little, see that little red triangle? That's a previous deficiency that was opened up on a previous inspection. So we're bringing in historical information as well. So if something keeps popping up, it shows up to the technician. Hey, this was written up a year ago. Why did they not fix it? Another note, if you click details, we do have the references to the NFPA codes in there, which is super powerful because it's code, right? And they should get that fixed.
Awesome. So your inspectors obviously would be very used to everything pulling in on this particular form. Now our general wet questions in here. Just put one in here. Our sprinkler systems. You guys know what these should actually be. Again, there's that deficiency was observed previously.
If anybody's doing fire pump NFPA 25, we plot the curve for you. We plot it versus the last year. We bring a lot of historical information from prior tests so that the technicians and fitters can make those decisions. Again, fire pump curve, it shows it on the app, but it also shows it on the report at the end and puts all the degradation curve and everything in there.
And
Wow.
Chelsea, we got a couple of questions in the chat here about how to take advantage of the integrations. So do you need both programs to get the inspection reports? What we are featuring today is, yes, a dual solution. So if you have InspectPoint and you have BuildOps, then this is the workflow connecting those two systems. And then question for you, Chelsea, compatible with iPads, Androids, tablets?
So currently, BuildOps compatible on Apple and Android, InspectPoint on Apple. So if this is an integration that you're interested in right now, only iOS, but Drew, I'm sure you could speak to that in terms of Android update in the future.
Yeah, potentially in the future. Right now, it is iOS, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. It works best on the iPad. It works on the iPhone's great, but usually you want a tablet, but not Android right now.
And then I'm sorry, I have a snarky answer, but if you don't have InspectPoint, how would you think about next steps? I would think about looking into InspectPoint. We've got some great deals and partnership discounts to
Yep.
go explore that. I don't think I would recommend you trying to do something around the system if you are doing fire life safety inspections and compliance. I think this is the way to go.
Yep. Hit another one quick, Ryan. He asked about NFPA 2001. We do have clean agent special hazard in this platform. She's not showing it here, but it's super specific where it has a suppression system. It has all the cylinders and detection underneath that. It's super specific to 2001 for that. So hopefully it answered Ryan's question.
So once you're ready to have those inspections and those forms signed off by your customer, that inspector can gain that signature out in the field and then complete and submit. They're going to send this back to the office, which then initiates back to inspect point, and then this will actually kick us right back into BuildOps. Again, those of you that are familiar with the BuildOps gated workflow, then we'd go through our normal checkout process. Similar to our app, they also have a queue for later. So if any of your inspectors don't have good service, or they need to have all of the information readily available, they can download that information, still do their daily inspections, and then queue for later. So we're going to send to office, and then that's going to push me right back into BuildOps. Now I'd go through the normal gated workflow and complete this ticket. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to see that pop right back up on the dispatch board. The inspection report is in there, and then we can also see those deficiencies that I flagged. In BuildOps, we also see those deficiencies as well. We can see 5 deficiencies on inspection. So already seeing that integration pulling through between the 2 apps before I've even closed out the ticket. All right.
Awesome, Chelsea. And to say that the Q&A, first of all, Drew.
Got a lot of Q&A. I love it.
Thank you. And you all are interacting either on air or in typing. This is fantastic. Continue doing that. You can pipe in and read any questions you want to. I've got a few as well on my own. Chelsea, I think you have another screen to show up as well to help with some of those questions. So what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to pop up on the screen a QR code for you all. And in fact, as she does that, I know some folks can't scan QRs or are hesitant to, so I'm going to send a direct link as well in a moment. But first, we'll show up the QR code. Some of these questions might be very specific to your use case. We want to make sure that we provide you the best possible answers. And also, we want to make sure that we're answering questions that are most applicable to the widest audience. So if you do have specific questions, or you want to see a little bit more of a deep dive into this and customized to your own experience, we absolutely recommend that you schedule a demo with our team. We'll do a little walkthrough with you as well to answer any of your questions that are a little bit more specific. So Chelsea will pop that up in a moment. With that, let's answer some questions as well. I have one here. Here, there's a QR code for you. And I'll send the link over in a little bit as well. So is this too advanced for smaller teams? Is this too advanced for smaller teams?
I don't think it's too advanced. I think it's based upon the process, the type of work that you do, how many different locations. I think the value increases with complexity, but depending on what you struggle with is really the way to answer that. If what you see here is something that you find cumbersome, even if it's just for 1 or 2 people, then it may still be right for you. So I need to know more to be able to say yes or no to that, but that's generally how I think about, should you be buying software to solve a problem that you've got in your business.
Chelsea, you got something else on the screen there?
Yes, so now that ticket is closed out, we see that inspection 70, that status waiting for review. We see our completed status over here in BuildOps. We see this new button, inspection report. You can actually go ahead and generate the inspection report right from BuildOps. You can also obviously generate that from InspectPoint, but made it a little easier. And we also see those deficiencies pop up here. So there's those same 5 that we saw out in the app, now feeding through on the individual job. And then with the InspectPoint integration, you also get a new drop down over here in my deficiencies. And so now those same 5 deficiencies we've got right up here at the tippy top, I could come in, select those 5, and then we've built in some bulk actions here as well. Add to a new quote, add to an existing quote, add to an existing job, or simply mark as complete. Maybe you just couldn't get access to it. They didn't have something up on the wall, but still giving you that record. And then we can see down below from the demo I was on previously, we see the in quote status, we see the deficiency status, and again, that's going to feed back and forth as these get updated, dispatched again, depending on, what those next steps are. But with the inspect point integration, you'll now see deficiencies clearly defined. If, again, you were previous BuildOps user, you may have been using recommendations, still have those, still able to track your pull-through work, but now this is going to be completely defined to your fire life safety inspections.
Hey, Drew, great question being posed for you here about subcontracting out work. And if you've, I don't know if you can see it in the comments, but basically what they're asking is different systems being subcontracted out to a third party or a third tier sub. What happens with their reports? They're not in Inspect Point, or can you manually upload them? Like, how does the system account for subbed out work?
Yeah, I mean, we have a subcontracting feature within the platform. There's the variety of ways to do it, right? Depends on who that sub is, but whoever owns that contract, or that specific facility itself, essentially, we can handle everything. But if it is done by another entity, well, we can suck that in through, and it could just be PDF, and we're working on things to actually read PDFs to break out deficiencies and like read the inspection points, the inspection reports with AI. So if you want to learn more about some of those subcontracting features, I'd love to highlight them in a kind of a demo.
Yeah, and to layer over that, like I think some of the value you get when you subcontract something out is it's risk, right? It's either resource that you don't have or risk associated with knowledge. And so if you start taking on the manual entry or the entry of their report into your system of record and track and follow up for diligence, you own a little bit of that. Obviously, you want performance. And so you want to assure that your subcontractors are doing what you've hired them for. But there is sort of that, like, you need to decide what level of engagement and participation you want in work that you're subbing out. Like, I always want to make sure that they're doing what I've asked them and that they're compliant and that I'm getting things in a manner in which I need to submit. And so to Drew's point, like if their form is acceptable and something you do in like the pre-hire interview and you look at how they administer things, hopefully because you've used them before, and that can flow into Inspect Point tomorrow with an OCR recognition or something like that, then that's going to be an option. But I would first principles look at that and then say, okay, given that, then what do I want to do with that information? Do you want to take the administrative burden of reviewing it? Because that's ultimately your job. And I call it the 20% rule, right? Like 80% generating, 20% review. I'd say that's probably the best, filling in a lot of assumption gaps for what the question is asking. But I would say that's probably something that you'd want to do at a minimum, is check it before entering it in Inspect Point yourself.
I'm going to interrupt for a second and just share out. Hopefully, I trust the Zoom to a certain extent, but hopefully everyone that is attending right now will see this message from me. It is a link. So that is a link to our landing page. It dives a little bit more into this as well and gives you an opportunity to schedule and book a demo with us as well if you want. So you can check out that link if you want a little more customized, tailored experience. For those folks who do have to jump out, go ahead. We will send a recording to this tomorrow. You'll get an email, hopefully from me. I think it is what it is. So be a lookout for your inbox. We'll have a recap of this as well as a recording of the webinar that you can feel free to share with anybody you want to. It's not gated or anything like that. But assuming that maybe Nate and Chelsea and Drew have a few more minutes, we can answer a couple more questions if you guys are into it.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah, I see Jason's got a good one in there
Yep.
about tracking essentially the system and assets. So if you're a facility, I don't know what Jason is, if they're a contractor or a facility, but every system, and then under the systems, we actually have sub assets. So it could be valves, it could be the actual detectors or pull stations or whatever, right? They have prescriptive frequencies for the code. So we handle all that, and whether it's a quarterly, an annual, I don't know how it breaks it out within BuildOps as far as the schedule goes. but a quarterly will have quarterly questions and annual will have annual questions. You're not going to get quarterly questions on an annual. Well, you'll get quarterly on an annual, but you won't get annual on a quarterly. So it's smart for the different frequencies and those specific systems themselves.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Gonna go through some other questions here. How do we create this from an existing service agreement as opposed to setting up a separate job?
That's something that is currently in development and would be available in Q3, Q4 this year. We saw the value on the job side right away. And so that's something that is currently being developed between the two teams.
To land that plainly, like, you know, we're putting the steel up on the building and you're asking for the roof, and we for sure know that you can't have the building without the roof. Of course, it's an obvious, it just makes sense to map, but we can't build it all at once. And so that is like the next build that we are currently doing now. And so as soon as we released it, it's like, what do the developers go to do? They go start work on the next project and functionality to release. And so expect that shortly. We tend to beat deadlines here, but we tend to not actually commit to them firmly on webinars also. So you should definitely expect that soon.
How hard is it to train my field team on this, really? It's such subjective a little bit, but what kind of...
No, it's a great question. Like, this lands in adoption, right? Like, one of the biggest risks of taking on any solution is field adoption. I think that's one of the biggest barriers to the question earlier in the webinar of like, why hasn't this worked? And we spoke to that a little bit. And so I think it's pretty easy and intuitive from just a click flow. Like, you know, how easy is it to add stuff to a cart in Amazon? Most people could figure that out, from 12-year-olds that overorder against the credit card all the way up to grandmas and pillows and all that fun stuff. But I think it's more about prepping, right? It's easy to do it if you've got buy-in and you sit people down and you work with them. If you say, hey, there's an app, download it and good luck to you. Obviously, that's probably the least accelerated way to do it, but, you know, walking people through it, just a couple of clicks. I don't think the complexity of all of the different functions and all of the different, like, 7 click downs to get to a place where you're done exist. I think we've got that 4 to 5 max. And so the build is intentional. It's a long way of answering the question to say, like, I think most people can figure it out, especially given the trade that we're talking about. Like, this is skilled labor. These are systems-based people. I think they're used to seeing worse solutions like BMS systems. And I won't call out people by name that have these DOS-based drop-down, very square, clunky solutions. I think it's better than that. It's more of an app store type of feel from a UI and UX standpoint.
Good reference. Good reference. I think we're going to close it out here because I want to respect and value everyone's time. And I know the webinar was slated for about 45 minutes. So with that, just to round it all up. So tomorrow in your inboxes, hopefully not in junk or spam, but, you know, be on the lookout for that. You'll get an email from me. It'll have the recording of this webinar as well as like recap and just like talking points. I'll resend the link to the key landing pages that you need in order to do a more customized walkthrough and also to learn a little bit more about the integration. Other than that, if you had asked a question and we did not answer it, we will try as our best to follow up to answer these questions. But we certainly, if you book a demo, we'll definitely get those questions answered for you, regardless. With that said,
wait, last one. I see this is a big one. So
big one. Here we go.
I did mention that that the partnership has incentives. We've released this and we work together to make sure that we're bringing a ton of value to you all. And so if you come in and you're looking at InspectPoint, you're looking at BuildOps, the integration does come with some discounts. Inquire within. Those change depending on when in the quarter. It's kind of like car sales a little bit, but yes, we are eager to get you guys on the platform and not making price the issue. And so come talk to us and we'll work with you to make it make sense.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So Drew, Nate, Chelsea, amazing job. Thank you so much. This is a lot of work to be able to showcase something like this live. It is a lot. So Chelsea, extra kudos for you to making that work. That's fantastic. Drew, thank you so much for your time. Please don't melt away. Nate, shaved head folks, not bald, rule the world. Other than that, folks, you'll get an email from me tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And we look forward to working with you all. Take it easy.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.